because it's all basic stuff, you know.
You mean like in protecting?
How to get absolute title to land.
Yes, absolutely.
I can tell you how I did it.
Okay.
They don't have me on any tax rolls, and I've actually met some people. I've met people in Arizona and New Mexico that have the land patent on their land, have huge tracts of land, and I could probably, there was some gorgeous land. It was in, I went to, when I went to Wilcox, Arizona. Let's map that. Let's map that. This guy is interesting. This is the guy yesterday I was telling you about, this preacher, this Christian preacher.
Oh, that's a different guy. Yeah, okay.
That's talking about, anyways, he's pretty interesting. Map.
Is he here in America, or is he just?
Oh, I think that was filmed in like Philadelphia or someplace. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but he's definitely in America, and it's an American audience.
Okay.
Wilcox, Arizona.
So Gilbert or Mesa it looks like okay on that map.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess
Eastern part of Phoenix.
if you're in Flagstaff or anything like that.
I think Adam maybe. Adam, maybe.
Adam.
Remember Adam, the Eastern European guy with the rolls or the.
Oh, well, maybe.
Yeah, there he is. He couldn't remember the address. Yeah. Do we want to?
What?
No, I was just wondering. Are you good with the way like if we move this forward?
Well, you can't fit that on the table. The table's not big enough. The legs will go off and it won't stand up.
All right. Okay. All right, I'll give him this spot then.
Anyways, this is Wilcox, Arizona. To give you an idea,
Try and move into the corner and that makes a bit more room.
I'm zooming out.
Did you want me to move?
Nope.
Okay.
See, there's Tucson. It's on I-10. Here's the New Mexico border.
What do you think of Tucson?
Awesome.
Someone wanted me to move down there, but
Well, again, I'd stay pretty well east of there.
I think so.
Anyways,
I was
when
looking at Tennessee, but I can't get to move down there at the moment.
Is there any reason you like Tennessee? No.
Well, it's the eastern part of Tennessee more than anything. So
Okay.
it's the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes.
So
yeah, that'd be a
eastern
pretty
end
safe area there for sure.
Yeah, so eastern end of Tennessee, the western
If
part
you look
of
on
North
that map-
Carolina, South Carolina, that area.
Okay.
If you look on that map, that's definitely a safe area.
Yeah.
Right. Tennessee, there ain't no state I'd rather be.
But it's funny, I don't know, I mean, I was born in England, and even when I came to Canada, and you talk about we talked about the US.
Right.
And said, well, where would you want to live? And that particular area has always been a draw, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
No specific location, although just things, I mean, I created my virtual address, my virtual mailbox is in Jonesboro,
Okay.
Tennessee.
Oh.
It's too hot.
Jones
You
is
take
my
your
surname,
jacket
so-
off. There's two
Oh, okay.
spots here.
Jonesboro was a nice...
That makes sense.
Carl.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
so yeah, there's a few good reasons to have it that way.
Right.
Always a pleasure.
But
Hi, how you doing?
we just,
Good, good. How are you?
Good.
my wife...
How was your trip down here?
It was good. It was good. It's a long trip. I'm
It's not
staying
my
in Arizona
original
now,
wife.
so
My original
I had to
wife.
drive all the way
She
from
was
Arizona,
divorced.
But it was good. It was good.
As far as,
It was
my
relatively
second
unmolested,
marriage,
that
Right.
kind of stuff, by
she's having to look after
whoever, the powers that be.
Mum won't move with us.
What happened to Texas?
Texas history. with
Well,
the
I
family
just,
as well.
Texas with
Yeah.
all this
And
COVID
it's
hoax and everything
her
is becoming like a
ex-husband,
police state.
basically.
So
The
I,
hoax is everywhere, and
yeah, they do.
it's kicking in.
Is she
on,
from
on
here
Wednesday.
or from?
Yeah, she was born in New York.
Kicking in on Wednesday.
Queens.
Yeah.
She lived in Queens, but she was born in.
Medicine came out again with
What's the other one
a
next
second
to it?
wave.
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, yeah.
Oh, that's
rules
what-
and
What
regulations
part of
for
Queens
people
was she
like
living?
me,
Because I
managing
have my
companies,
relatives.
yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah.
mother's born in
Oh,
Queens.
You got a judicial. I can't order anyone to wear a mask.
She said she lived on-
I know what it
Well,
means.
no, 'cause
but
Queens
when
has a
you
lot of
poison
different-
by
That's
carbon
right. There was little
dioxide
boys
or
for the.
carbon
Okay, right,
I
right.
can't remember
Right.
the.
Okay.
Actually, all you have to do is tell them that
Woodside.
that people like me are
Oh,
telling you
Woodside,
that it's a felony
Maspeth,
to violate their rights
uh,
under the color of law,
Elmhurst.
and that'll get you off the
okay.
hook.
I'm
You know
not
what
sure
I
of
mean?
the
Okay.
actual.
Okay, Jackson
That'll
Heights.
get you off the hook.
and the color
So
of
you
law.
got people like me that are
Right.
telling
That's all
you
right. Just-
that it's a felony
I think
under
it was
Title 18
62nd
United States Code
Street.
Section
Okay.
42. It's
I
a
think
felony
it
to
was-
violate somebody's rights
All
under
right.
the color of law.
The actual
And then,
houses that they
if
originally
your
lived
employee
Okay.
tells
That
them,
might be
That's-
Maspeth.
that's
I don't know,
on
depending on
Title
what,
18.
you know.
Uh-huh. and then if,
Oh, that's
if
later
you
on.
tell your employee to do
Okay.
it,
Check.
and their
So,
employee
yeah,
says,
that's
well,
what
I'm
she
only
was
doing
doing.
Because
what
our
I'm
brothers that
told,
live
well,
not
then
far from
that's a
69th
conspiracy.
Street.
That's another felony.
Yeah, off Grand Avenue there, yeah.
So that's two felonies now.
That's very
Absolutely.
Yeah.
18
Well, I'll
USC
find out
241 and 242.
interesting.
That's what I always
So,
tell. I
anyway,
tell the
we-
small businesses because
we've
I don't
got,
want to. I'm
all
not
her
interested in
children.
getting
She's
these
got
small
grown-up,
business people into
um,
trouble. You know, and I tell them, look,
So
I'm
they're
telling you
one's
this
in
because
college
you can.
now,
If some bureaucrat
last
gets
year
on
in
your
high
case,
school.
Right.
you just
He
tell them
doesn't
I
want
told
to
you,
leave to go
and that'll get you off the
Yeah.
hook.
to finish
You know what I
out
mean?
high school,
Sure.
but the way they've been brought up as well, it's all kind of fear-based stuff. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
scared of doing anything.
Right.
You know, so moving
Yeah.
300 miles, never mind 700 miles, is
Right.
just.
Well, you know, sometimes probably the best thing to do is just have a whole new story.
And
Right.
that was part of the reasoning.
Yeah.
I mean, I moved from the UK.
Right.
I spent time in Europe. I moved from the UK. I went 3,000 miles right into Canada
Right.
after
We're
one
gonna be here
visit.
next weekend too,
Really?
with Bobby and
Yeah.
everybody else.
Wife and I at the time
Oh, yeah.
said,
Yeah.
well, we got back together because we'd split
We're
up.
gonna. It's. I guess. I just asked everybody
But
what we
then
wanted to go
we
through.
moved to Canada.
Some people were interested in going
We had
through
a great
getting an
life.
absolute title to
But after
land.
30 years of marriage,
And so, unless
she wanted
you
to do
have
things
something else you'd like
differently.
to
I
go
was,
through.
doing this. And
Yeah.
Right.
she supported me
Right.
to an extent.
Yeah, I understand.
But once it went past that, oh no.
Yeah. Right.
So we were just
Absolute title to
going in
land.
different directions.
Yeah.
Well,
know,
in other
it's
words,
yeah.
go-
Moving
going
to
after
thanks very much for the
tax
experience.
assessor and
It's now time
everyone
for us
else
to
on the
experience
chain,
something else.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the way it was.
getting them to
Yeah,
but
admit
then, you know,
that
just
property
she
tax
kept the
don't
house.
apply
Mhm.
to we the
You
people.
know, I packed up the car twice, two visits to the US.
It's more than that,
and then
actually.
moved what bits and pieces I
Um,
could fit in the car, and that was it.
Right.
That's what I took with me.
You don't get them to admit
I'm
anything.
trying
You
to
basically
rebuild
get it so
again,
that you take it
trying
off
to
the
make
tax
that
rolls.
move, but,
Yeah.
Take the
you
land
know,
off the
when
tax
people are
rolls.
charging
Right.
$1,500
And
a
that
month,
could be a
That's
lot of
secret.
money.
and more for rentals for the
Huh?
houses that you want
That's
to
the
live in.
secret.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Take
If
it
you're in
off the
Princeton,
tax
it's got to
rolls.
be double that.
Well, yeah, it is. But I mean, where we are now,
Okay.
we're fortunate that we're living with.
Oh, there we go.
A mum
Mike
in a
Laws.
place. So we're paying the taxes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But even
Tim
that's
Mulvey.
$10,000 a year.
Wow, that's
Ridiculous
interesting.
amount of money.
That's yeah. It is. That's like Long Island. Long Island.
Anyways,
It's like
I was
yeah.
I was in I went to a gun show in Tucson, Arizona. No, in Wilcox, Arizona. This is the mayor of Wilcox, Mike Laws. Anyways,
I like his name.
I went to the gun show. I went there the day early because I wanted to make sure I had my table reserved and paid for, and they had actually said that we can go there the day early and set up. And so I went there the day early, and he was standing outside the building, and he said that they were having a Cowboy Hall of Fame meeting that night, and so we weren't going to be able to get access till later. And I sat there and talked with him. I didn't know he was the mayor, okay? Anyways, I sat and talked with him for probably 2 hours. And he's a pretty interesting guy, nice guy. Anyways, he was talking about how he owned 400,000 acres of land. Okay? You know how much 400,000
That's
acres of
that's
land is?
unbelievable.
400,000 acres of land. Let's get my calculator.
What
out.
a thousand.
He said that he owned 400,000 acres of land. So we'll divide 400,000.
That's 200,000 hectares. That's half of a lot of countries.
400,000 divided by 640. Okay, so it's 640 per section, right? So it's 625 sections, and divided by 36 sections for a township. So he's got 17.36 townships.
Wow.
Okay, so a township is 6 miles by 6 miles.
My God.
And so you got to figure that it's probably about 60 miles by 30 miles, right?
Was this desolate area? Is like
It's definitely desert. Let
Okay.
me,
it still is.
let me,
I bet you there's a lot of valuable minerals in that area, in that desert.
oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
there is. Well,
But
it's,
can he get access to them?
he
Because,
probably,
the
I'm
government
guessing
typically
that he
take
had,
control of everything under the land.
I'm
Right.
guessing that he had the,
He had a land patent probably, right?
I'm sure with 400,000 acres, of course. This is the land. That's
Right.
what it looks like,
Okay. Well,
right?
you know,
That's what it looks like right there.
bet you a lot of wealth there.
It's just desert,
Right.
right?
Well.
It's just desert.
Okay.
But 400,000 acres, you know, and you know, I've when I first started learning about this, I went to the county recorder, okay, where they record all the land, and usually there's a plat map on the wall of
Right.
the county,
Right.
and it'll show all the big landowners who owns all the big pieces. It won't show all the little pieces. Because the land, when you talk at a plat map, it might be that big. You know what I mean? But it'll show the big pieces, and it'll show who owns it. And especially when you get away from, like around here, the land's been transferred so much and all this other stuff that you know, the title's been clouded basically, you know, and it's color of title at that point,
Right.
and whoever is possession of it, and that's why it's on the tax rolls, and so then the question is how to get it off the tax rolls. But I have met people, and I didn't talk to him about his land, okay? He just told me that he had 400,000 acres of land. We were just talking about anything and everything, and he said that Warren Buffett actually bought 200,000 acres of his land, half of it.
Really?
And he said that was a big check, he says. Anyways, he didn't say how much it was, but he said that his attorney was handling it, and he said that Warren Buffett turned around and leased it back to him for $1 a year for to run his cattle ranch operation on it.
Oh, okay.
And so so he figured that Warren Buffett was going to use it to run an oil pipeline across, a pipeline of some sort across.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anyways, so, but the point is there's people out there that own that kind of land. You know what I mean? And all you got to do is go to the county recorder, and they got plat maps around there, and you can find out who the big landowners are. And you go to them, and you say, look, you know, I'm a prepper. I mean, they're guaranteed if they own huge amounts of land, they're very conservative. They're not liberal. They're not. You know what I mean? And they don't like the taxes. You don't have to bring up the issue of the taxes. You just tell them, look, I want to buy, you know, a section. I'll give you silver for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And how much would you take? And just give me a section of land. Sell me a section of land, and give me the land patent, all the rights and privileges of the original land patent. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'll bet you they'll do it, and I'll bet you it'll be not that expensive. I saw some land. There was land on eBay. I bought land. I got 20 acres in West Texas, and I got 10 acres in West Texas. I got 5 acres in Arizona, and then I got a bunch of 1 acre lots in
Okay.
Arizona. All of them are free and clear, and I paid cash,
Right.
right? And then I brought forward the land patent, and I did all that stuff. And I'll go through the procedure on how I do that. Okay.
Okay.
But and none of it is anybody looking for property taxes on it. Okay, it's all off the tax rolls.
Okay.
Now, every state is different, but like Arizona, for example, they have it's called an affidavit of property value. And when you fill out that affidavit of property value, you're saying, I swear on a penalty of perjury that I paid Federal Reserve notes for that land. And that's what gets you in there, okay? Because when you use Federal Reserve notes, it's impossible to pay for anything with a Federal Reserve note, okay? You understand that? We've talked
Evidence
about
of
that.
that.
And so it's a privilege, it's commercial paper, and in fact, what happens is that you're basically converting the land back over to the government by using Federal Reserve notes because they're IOUs.
So, okay, I'm sorry, that was an affidavit of, what was it again?
Well, in Arizona, they have an affidavit of property value.
Okay, it's called.
And so what I do, there's court cases that say that if you, it doesn't matter that you have, it doesn't matter if they file stamp it or not, as long as they've got it, it's filed. Okay, there's court cases that say that. And so what I do is I serve it on them by registered mail, then I can prove it. Then they send it back to me. In Arizona, this is how it works.
Okay.
They'll send it back to me with an unsigned letter, and the reason it's unsigned is because it's perjury of oath, so nobody's going to accept responsibility for it. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And so they'll send it back to me with an unsigned letter that says, you forgot your affidavit of property value. And we've enclosed one for you to make it real nice and easy for you to fill out. And it'll say, in the meantime, we've put this in a special file. Well, that's perfect. That's a non-tax-paying file.
So for people who may have purchased land with a check or whatever, which would be Federal Reserve, and they put it into, say it wasn't in their name, but it was in, like I said, an LLC or a corporation or
Right,
something,
right.
could they then basically sell that to the real man or to another entity?
That's exactly what I do.
And pay and buy it with silver or gold?
I don't sell it to an entity because
Okay.
under Title 15, United States Code, Section 44,
Right.
a corporation
Yeah.
is anything that's fictitious.
Okay, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
And so you want to make sure, and I always say that I'm a man and not a U.S. citizen and all of that stuff.
A man on the land.
On the deed.
Right.
On the
A
deed.
man on the land. Yeah. Right.
And what I'll do is I'll have the seller and the buyer sign the deed.
So but if you represented the, I'll say it was an LLC, you represented the LLC, and you're buying it from the LLC, you have to sign it both, right?
Yeah, and that looks like fraud. So I would appoint someone as signer. I do that in the LLC documents.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Appoint someone to sign for the LLC
All right.
for a limited time for whatever reason. You see
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so then they sign it and you sign it.
Okay.
And that looks perfectly appropriate then.
I
See
see.
what I'm saying? Because
Right,
if you
right.
sign both sides of it, then it definitely looks shady.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
And so you'd want to just you could even appoint someone and put it in the LLC documents again, authorized signature for this deed only or something, and
Okay.
then that's private, right?
Right,
That's
right.
not public. It's private. It's in your documents that
Okay.
shows that he had authority to sign it for this document only. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then you could have the two signatures on it.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Excellent. Yeah. Because there's people out there that, of course, many people put it in their own name anyway. So if it's in their name, they then have to either really sell it to someone, either a
Yeah.
relative or a friend, or
and then sell it back,
and then sell it back type
and,
of thing.
and that's like major pain in the butt.
Okay.
I always, when I buy the land, I'll buy it under an LLC or a trust or something like that,
Right.
and then I'll transfer it from the LLC or trust to me, the living man,
Okay.
and I can show you. I've got some of those here. Let me go get some.
It's gotten really cool out there, considering this is this section of, because north is like New York or whatever, a lot colder. But I noticed the temperature was like 10 degrees more. But last night it seemed a little cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It went
It
down
went down to
to
34. Yeah.
It did go down. Okay. That's got to be the coldest of the year so far, right? Or of this
Yep.
time of year, yeah. Right, other than January, February, yeah. It's all right, I sleep good when it's cold anyway.
Yeah, I do. I prefer it.
Yeah.
See
62
here,
is a nice temperature for me to
this
sleep
is
in.
actually an envelope that the Pinal County, or no, this is Apache County in Arizona said. It
Oh,
says,
Apache.
not recorded, please respond.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Now,
they use their-
when they send you that, do you have to respond back to them?
No, I don't. Well, I don't. It's up to you whether you think you have to respond.
Mhm.
It sounds like they're begging to me, please respond.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is a Texas land patent. Handwritten. This is a certified copy I got from the Texas Land Commissioner.
Wow.
Republic of Texas, in the name of the Republic of Texas.
Hmm.
And it's upper and lower case too.
Hmm.
That's unusual. Anyways, it has to do with one of these documents in here.
How old is that? When is that written?
This Texas land patent?
Yeah, you say?
Back on the stuff.
Well, that's a certified 2012 certified copy.
Okay, so somewhere in there it's gotta have.
It'll have it. It's
Yeah.
handwritten.
Mm-hmm.
1860.
I was gonna say, it's probably similar to what I came across in New York.
So it's
Yeah. Or it's-
1860? Must be, no, it's got to be over that. 1845.
Okay.
1845, because the Republic of Texas became the state of Texas in 1845 too.
Well, that's all in cursive.
Wow.
That's all cursive.
Signed by Anson Jones. Yeah, that's the president of the Republic of Texas at
Wow.
the time.
No relative. I don't think so.
13th, 10th day of March, 1845. Anson Jones. Wow. That's interesting. Anyways, this is a certified copy. The Sharp-Whitley patent.
Similar to, let's see. Right. The penmanship is just phenomenal. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a little different style than I saw in New York. But this depends on who was the clerk probably, right? So it's still very. And they wrote with, ink that they dip pen type thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you gotta be careful you didn't smear with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have an actual fountain pen,
Right.
not a quill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fountain pen. It was hard enough with
This
that.
is one.
I remember those.
This is one that was where the guy was really interested in what I do, and he was more than happy to put the wording on here that I wanted.
Oh, cool.
And so I didn't have to transfer it twice. But this is the copy of the letter they sent me. And here's the blank affidavit of property value. And here's my letter I sent them. And it says, there's no affidavit of property value. It says,
Oh, that's right. Easy.
says somewhere here that it's put in a special file.
How long ago? You said they did in 2012?
That was done in 12.
Oh, that was okay.
This was done in 2011. This is not that Texas land. This is some land that I got that's part of this, it's a railroad land patent,
Oh,
right? which is basically the railroads were given 10 miles of land on each side of the railroad
Right.
to finance the construction of the railroad when they built the railroads across the country. So
That's a
you
lot of land.
basically have a list of sections, townships, and ranges, which so you have a land patent that is 6 pages long.
You mean there was actually a distance from the track 10 miles out one way and 10 miles the other?
Mm-hmm.
My God, they basically control, I mean, you know.
There's a huge amount of land, for sure.
Of course,
But
that's like,
they use that to finance the construction of the railroad.
right.
It built up all the towns right off the.
Right, exactly.
This is
the
Santa
rail
Fe
tracks,
Pacific
and then they just
Railroad
went back
Company.
From there, and they own all of that anyway, so further it went back
Wow.
until they got to the 10-mile limit.
Well, and they essentially stole it from the Indians anyway.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, so this is on that land. So, anyways, this is one that I did, but this is not one like I'm doing them now. I have the buyer and the seller. So the seller signed it, but I have the buyer sell it too, or sign it too, and that makes it even better. But he was more than happy. Matter of fact, he even put his address down as zip code exempt, eh? And
Is that right?
yeah. And upon receipt of 30 each United States of America Silver Eagle 1 troy ounce pure silver coins, each of which has a face value of $1 for a total value of $30 in lawful money, as payment in full, does hereby convey, grant, and exchange to Glenn Winningham, House of Fern, sovereign living soul, inhabitant of the land of Arizona, holder of the office of the people, the grantee, full legal and equitable, full title, legal and equitable, to the following described real property situated on the land of Apache County. Yep.
It's written properly, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's this one.
Real property, because whenever it mentions
so how
real
much of the
estate
land
or
are we
real
talking?
property, I
That was 5 acres.
I
What's
look
that?
at that real estate and
Yeah.
real property.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
that's right.
a-
It's not an estate.
So it's, right, so.
But it's
Because
real.
it's
and
real,
That
that's right.
itself, in conveyancing terms, I think that's had issues with me, because when you mention,
So you mentioned.
well, real estate.
Yeah, real
Certainly
estate.
when you mention that as to
Yes, you're right.
regards to houses and housing and
Right.
property
Yes.
and
Right.
stuff, that has another connotation.
It
It's not
does.
private. It's
It does.
So-
completely separate.
Well, a real
So real
estate
property is that.
is real. That's right.
Okay.
Shouldn't it say
Yeah.
like land and buildings, or
Real estate is something you have an interest in,
it's what's above
like
the
your
ground?
father's estate.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
And that's why it's something you have an interest in, but you don't own. Okay,
okay.
like your father's estate. Real estate. Where real property is property. Right?
Okay.
Property rights. That's a fundamental common law right, is the right to property.
Which is basically
Life,
land.
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay,
Right?
right.
Which is property. Your rights are your property. I mean, this is my property. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And when property is common law.
Well, when people talk about like property taxes, they're really talking about real estate, which is above the ground, above the land.
Of course.
So if you're talking about, that's why you want to have the land.
Yeah.
But they
And-
tax the land too.
Pardon?
Because it's
Well-
separated, land and dwelling.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. You have to get it off of the tax rolls is what you have to do.
Right.
There's a lady I know in Texas where
Is there a lady you know in Jersey?
there's a lady I know in Texas in a city called Flower Mound. The houses, the area is really an expensive area for Texas. Like you can buy a brand new house in a lot of areas in Texas for under $100,000. And the houses in this area are like $300,000-$400,000. So they're nice houses.
Right.
And so she has a house in this city called Flower Mound where the houses are normally $300,000-$400,000. And she went through a foreclosure 10 years ago, and she's still in the house.
Well,
And so she's been out of work. And so they were sending her these property tax notices. And property taxes in Texas are pretty high. It's probably $8,000-$9,000 a year, you know? And I don't know, it's probably not much compared to some areas around here, but it's
Yeah.
still pretty high.
still high.
And so when you're out of work, $8,000-9,000 is a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And she went down under Texas codes. It says that the property has to be rendered for taxation, right? Rendered. And so she went down to the county tax assessor and started reading the riot act to him, saying, "Who rendered this property for taxation? I'm going to sue their butt off." And the tax assessor immediately said, "Don't worry, we'll take it off the tax rolls."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a lot easier than.
Again, there was no mortgage. She'd been in the house 10 years after they foreclosed, right?
Yeah.
So it's free and clear. There's no mortgage company involved. If there's a mortgage, then you don't own it. And
Right.
actually, I remember back in the 90s, I bought some land in Utah, bought a house in Utah, and there was actually a document in the closing documents that said that I agreed to pay the property taxes. And the reason is, if you think about it, is because it was a brand new house. I had it built.
Right.
Anyways, the reason is because if there's a mortgage on it, then you don't own it. The mortgage company owns it, and they're responsible for the property taxes. And when you sign that piece of paper, you take that responsibility off of them.
Right. You're a tenant.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Tenants in common, whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Tenants in common, joint tenants, whatever.
Right.
So, anyways,
King doesn't pay taxes on his land, right?
We get
No,
somebody
of course
else
not.
to
You
give
can't.
him taxes.
that's a tax as a rent.
Right.
Either you own the land or you don't.
That's right.
If you don't own it, then you have to pay taxes. If you own it, then you own it. Absolute ownership, right?
Right.
I think that's a
Otherwise,
good
you
question.
just own an interest, which is an estate.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have a right to be on the land with certain strings.
Right.
You pay me my tribute every year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll let you stay there.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
What it is.
The problem is that people rightly sign up for that, I think, if they're going through a mortgage process.
Well, they pretty well have to.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have no choice. But when people pay that mortgage, they're supposed to get their deeds back.
Yeah,
A
you
lot of
should.
the times they don't.
Right.
The bank still has them a lot of the time, even after they've paid the mortgage.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
the other thing they're supposed to do is then go to the land registry and remove it from
Right.
the registration as a mortgaged property and change who the actual owner is, because on the land registry it shows as the bank,
Right.
not you.
Right.
That's
Right.
what all that conveyancing process that
Exactly.
we talk about.
But the
with
attorney
lawyers
doesn't
do.
tell you that. Yeah.
Oh no, no, hell
And
no.
and the Skv Trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember in that that citation from that law dictionary citation that says that the Roman cult set up the Skv Trust for conveyancing.
1666.
Actually, I'm not sure what year, but it's from the law dictionary 1835.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be in my presentation.
The
Okay.
1666 one was in the UK, in England.
Yeah, that's the
And that was
Skv
because-
Trust Act.
Yeah, and that was because of the Great Fire of London
Oh.
and plagues that were going on at the time. So
Right.
They were declaring everybody dead after 7 years.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you didn't go back and do something, that's what they do today with the birth certificate, right?
Yeah.
So if you, but who knows? So it's basically fraud because they want full disclosure. An infant doesn't know what
No.
the
no,
mother
they don't.
signs over as an informant.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Still not awake. Sorry about that.
Quick, grab the towel.
Is that towel?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are now wanting to try and overturn, me included actually. And I did some research through a guy that was doing it down in Florida, and someone else I think who was doing it in Texas, and he was basing his structure
You're going to
on
sell it for 35
law,
silver coins.
and
Nope,
and statutes that were in
definitely
Florida
not.
because
My
it
attitude
was
is I'll never sell
written-
land.
It was
It's,
written
it's
in a
always
way
gonna be, I'll pass it on in the family.
was
That's,
obvious.
that's what they usually do.
Whereas it wasn't
Yeah.
in Texas.
So I never sell it.
But they kind of
I just hope my kids
contaminated a little
appreciate
bit
it.
and then started to do something to
Pass it on in the family,
to
you know
get
what I mean?
people removed.
Once
from
it's off the
from
tax rolls,
tax
as
roll.
long as you pass it on in the family, it'll
So
never
I
be
know
on the
it
tax
can
rolls.
be done, but
So
I think it
while
has
you with
a lot
mortgage,
to do with
paying to the bank,
the knowledge of the tax assessor
in
as
other
well.
words, your depends on
You know, I mean, if he's already aware
Yeah.
to some extent.
Well,
and
because you
start
don't own it,
grilling
number
him on
one.
it, and they'll just
And
say,
they
"Okay,
only
I
deal
know,
in
we'll take you off."
Federal Reserve
Yeah.
notes.
And the other
So
guy
nothing's
is,
paid.
is doing his job,
Okay.
and job's
Right,
worth,
but at
and
some
it doesn't
point
matter,
you
I'm the
come
tax
to a
assessor,
closure.
it's on the roll, and
say,
you can't tell me anything, I know my job.
and you consider
Yeah,
you,
and then you get these guys,
Maybe that was
usually
a
are
small-
attorneys, and they say,
They
well, we're gonna do
consider
we're gonna give you a,
Okay?
we're gonna go in and lower your taxes, not gonna get rid of your
where do you
taxes.
go from
We're
there?
gonna lower your tax, of course, he gets half of what they say
Well, I would,
supposedly,
once you have absolute,
So
once
big-
it's, the
Well, wait a
mortgage
minute,
is
why don't
cleared,
you just take them off the
you
tax
can bring
roll?
forward all,
Oh,
but
because
you
he
have
doesn't
to
make money
transfer
every
it
year.
again. You have to transfer it. If
Yeah,
it's
as
in
an
your
attorney,
name,
so,
then
yeah.
you'd have to transfer it to a family member or something like that, would be the way I would probably do it. Or transfer it to somebody, it's gotta be transferred, because otherwise, you're not, I've done it from myself to myself, but it's not near as effective as if you do it to someone else. You know what I mean?
Mind your way in?
Someone like my wife or someone like my son or?
Could be either one, sure. Yeah, someone you trust, obviously. And you don't have to leave it in their name. You can always transfer it back in a few years, but if you do it too soon, then you know, people see that it was, you know, I mean, that's effectively a straw man. You see what I'm saying? If you do it too quick.
See, I have, my mother is she's like 93 now, so she has, she's paying, I don't know, it's probably 15,000, maybe even a little bit more than that, you know, a 40 by 100 plot type of thing, what's on Long Island. Because it's just, and I try to explain this to her, because I have another brother, because he has a degree in finance, so he thinks he's going through this fellow as an attorney, right, who's basically saving them a little money every year on, you know what I'm saying? In other words, I said, well, no, he's not taking you off the rolls. You need to come off the rolls. Well, they didn't want to hear what I have to say about that, but the only way was, it's in her name. The home is in her name. So if someone else has an interest, or even if they didn't, could actually, it could be transferred, or they could buy it for whatever, or and then, in other words, because she's not going to do it, and my other brother's going to, so someone would have to come in and basically offer the value of the property, and then at that point do that, take it off the rolls, right? Which,
Yeah, and you cannot use Federal Reserve notes. You
Right.
have to specifically say that you use gold or silver coin, because
Right.
if you don't, then they will presume that you use Federal Reserve notes. And
Exactly.
again, so that's why you specifically say you use gold or silver coin.
Mhm.
Right, this is Arizona land here.
But if you had, like I said, a situation where someone owns that property and you have, say there's several siblings
Uh-huh.
that potentially, you know, could inherit that, could be given to one, could be, you know, type of thing. Would that, if something it have to be said, something might have to be said in there, if in fact it was, someone else was to take it over, if the original owner is still, you know, living, right? In order to save the taxes, that basically. Or it'd have to be something else written, I suppose, right? Something else that was,
You have to make sure and spell everything out, for sure.
right.
And it's a legal document, and if it's not said, then it's not done.
Hmm.
So you have to spell everything out.
Okay.
Otherwise, also, then it gives them room to make presumptions, right? Under
Yeah.
martial law, they can presume things,
Right.
and it's always, if they make presumptions, it's never in your favor.
Well, my question is, say someone owns this and there's no debt on it. There's no debt. But they're paying these taxes, which it would help if they didn't have to pay that because they have, you know, limited funds to work with. So if someone were to they transfer that for a silver dollar or something, now someone said, wait a minute, this is worth, you know, $500,000 or whatever it is. You'd have to basically have an understanding that upon death, that could be transferred to would have to be written in such a way that it would basically either you make up the rest of the monies that it's worth, the property's worth, or it would have to be transferred back or something. I mean, would that make sense, or it would have to be a literal sale? In other words, it'd have to be transferred in order to save the taxes and to do, because most people don't know that, they don't know what to do, you know, type of thing. So, but because the only other thing I know that can save is to put into a foundation.
When I transfer it, I mean, you know, what you put down on the deed, you could, as long as you have an understanding with the seller, like the one guy here that was in Nevada, that they said I could put any wording, they were more than happy to put the wording I wanted.
Okay.
I didn't pay them silver. I paid them Federal Reserve notes. I bought it on eBay.
Okay.
And so, but they were more than happy to put the wording on there that said I paid them silver.
Well, could you have said you bought it for $1 silver and give them $1 silver, and then did mention anything about?
Yeah, well, if you say something like I paid $1 silver and other good and valuable consideration, then that leaves open their presumptions.
Okay, so they could say.
And so usually what I'll say is if the land is worth $100,000, and so then say gold is worth $1,000 an ounce, then I'll say that I gave them 100 gold eagles, 1 troy ounce each, for a face value of $50 each, and so then that's $5,000.
Okay.
And as payment in full, so it'll be equivalent somewhere
Okay.
near there. Now, whether that 100 gold eagles actually trades hands, that's nobody's business.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You have an affidavit that says that it did. Who's going to dispute it?
That's true. Right.
And so, you know, that's all that matters.
Well, what's to say that you don't have it and you push it at the table, here it is, and then you're sending the Federal Reserve notes and he pushes it back. You know?
Whatever.
I mean,
Whatever.
you
Who's
offered
gonna
it
say?
there, it was there, and
I
you
mean,
pushed it back, and
it's-
you took
all
the Federal
you're
Reserve
doing-
notes.
All you're doing is defeating their presumptions.
Right, right.
And making it so that you have an absolute title on that land.
Right.
And then you have to defend it. So that's why I like this one here. This is Navajo County Recorder, and this had an affidavit of property value, so I'm not sure why they rejected it. But it says there's no affidavit of property value with this recording. I might not have sent it. But I've got it attached here.
Right.
I just haven't sent it back again.
Right.
Anyways,
So you have to basically get someone that understands this and doesn't think, you know, especially if you're dealing with some people that are older and they don't understand, oh, I got to get an attorney type of thing involved, and that's what you don't want. You don't want, you know.
absolutely not.
Right.
They'll sell you down the river every
Right.
time.
Exactly.
This one here, it actually says in here, it says to receive the fastest service, it's a little thing here, right? To receive the fastest service possible without further delay, this slip must accompany your document before you return it for recording. Failing to do so will result in extra time spent matching this return to the information already in the hold file in the recorder's office. Well, that's the non-taxpaying file.
Right. You're holding it out.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Now, I'm not sure if this one has the same thing on it.
You just have to do it on your own. You cannot get someone like an attorney because they're
absolutely
always
not,
going
yeah.
to they're always going to screw you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Because they don't represent you. I mean, they represent the bar, British Accreditation Registry. Right?
All attorneys, and this is something that Nelson found, all attorneys operate under the United Nations. That's under international law, okay? There's no ownership. There's no such thing as a sovereign under international law. Under international law, you're a slave. That's it. You're a piece of property. They can do anything they want.
Okay.
That's why you don't want to be under international law.
That's why all these people walking around with masks on. These are all.
That's all international law. That's right. That's the Centers for Disease Control. Matter of fact, a lot of acts of Congress fall under international law.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Trump has withdrawn us from the World Health Organization.
Yes.
And 3 cheers for Trump. And and I think that he's going to withdraw us from. I'd like to see him get us out of the UN. That's what I'd like to see him do.
Exactly.
And
I think that's too big of an ask on the first 4 years. Maybe on the last 4 years.
I'm surprised he's still alive after what he did in Davos in December of last year, and then January his United Nations speech.
I know.
That was, the Davos was 1.5, but the UN was
I know.
2 fingers.
To the UN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that's great. I love it.
Right.
There's matter of fact, this guy here. This guy here says that
I've seen this man.
he's a Christian preacher. I'm not sure where this is at,
Never mind.
but he's a Christian preacher, and he said that God told him that we have to elect Donald Trump again, or we have no idea the kind of hell we're going to be exposed to.
I think we can imagine.
On that,
That's
on
pretty
that
recent,
note,
October 18th, huh?
Yeah, right.
I'm just looking at now on that note, Zero had just posted an open letter to Donald Trump from the Archbishop Vigano.
I've read that. That's an interesting letter too.
Yes, well, there's two, because the open letter was in, the first one was in June.
I believe I read that too.
The second one was from dated 25th of October.
Ah.
So it's recent. Actually, it's not October. It's another site, but I'm looking at it now. But that's going through the same things, stating that we're going through a great reset
Right.
that's been pushed by the global elites.
Well, and I think that he's letting them push it, but I think that it's not going to come out the way they want. And I think that because if we wind up going back on a gold standard, then that's going to see they this military script. This stuff is military script,
Right.
and it creates all sorts of presumptions for them. And if it's eliminated and we go back on a gold standard, then everything changes. You know.
My concern is who owns the gold.
I always thought about that.
Well, you know, and it's interesting to note that
Yeah.
Canada went and sold all their gold,
Yeah, they did.
and so
So
that's,
they don't have any.
They don't have any.
power
That's
because
right.
they don't have any gold.
yeah, that's right.
Well, what about all the gold that wasn't mined that's in Canada, though?
Well, that's true. Yeah, they got shitloads of gold that's in the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I guess,
stud mining.
do they know how much though? That's the only
It's
issue.
probably a lot.
I have the date as October 30th,
What's that?
the open letter.
Yeah, the open. It's got another one there.
Who's that from?
Yeah, October 25th.
Yeah,
Sunday.
October 25th, you're right.
From who? The same?
No, it's
Archbishop
Archbishop
Carlo Maria Viana.
Vigano.
Where is he from?
I think he's Vatican.
Oh, really?
But there was also something big coming from New York's bishop.
Well, there's some stuff internally going down inside the Catholic Church,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
and because not everybody's on board with the pimp. Well, I meant the Pope.
Yeah.
Well, the
No,
Jesuit, you
definitely
mean? He's not
not
supposed to be Pope anyway, right?
Well, that too.
Yeah, because he's a black, the white. So basically, he's really masquerading as the white Pope, but he's really the black Pope. So the other guy must be must still be effective then, right? He's just came down because of pressure or something.
Maybe. Well, actually, what I had heard,
Well, what is the white pope?
That's the one who's basically that's the
Benedict.
Right.
Yeah,
Benedict.
no, he was actually what I had heard was Kevin Annett, okay, with his International Common Law Court of Justice,
Right.
convicted him of all sorts of pedophilia and child murder and
Wow.
and that kind of stuff with these satanic sacrifices.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had witnesses, like 40 eyewitnesses, and the Italians were about to go and arrest his butt.
Wow.
And so he had to resign, and he's hiding out in the Vatican because that's the Italians haven't gone there yet, and that's technically supposed to be foreign territory, or they've agreed not to do that.
Right.
And so he's hiding out in the Vatican because that's the only place. That if he sets foot outside, they get arrested. That's what I heard.
Okay.
And so that's why he resigned.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
foreign to anything else in the world. They have their own army.
Well, that's only because the Vatican or Italians have agreed not to. And there's a Lateran Pact that says that they even agree to defend the Vatican. And the U.S. and Canada signed the Lateran Pact too, and where they agreed to defend the Vatican.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, which basically gives it sovereign status and all the rest of it, which I think is like a major mistake in my opinion. I think that
Right.
some of them, and I don't want to say anything negative about Catholic people in general. There's lots of wonderful people that are Catholic.
I come out of the Catholic Church.
And so I certainly don't want to say, but the Roman cult is, I mean, they're Satanists.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, what's this Black Mass all about?
Well,
Yeah.
no joke.
Yeah.
Well, it's
The Mass period, but the Black Mass?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. There's a Easter ceremony. It's a YouTube video of an Easter ceremony where they're saying Christ is Lucifer.
The light bringer.
Yeah, right.
Boy.
Yeah, and it's the guys singing it, and it's in Italian, or it's in not Italian. It's
Latin?
Latin.
Yeah.
Right. But it's on YouTube, and there are translations underneath.
So people going in there not know, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah.
It's lovely, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
sounds,
right.
yeah, that's how
Because they don't know. They don't know what they're saying,
Right.
and Latin's very similar to Italian, but there are differences. And
So
so
most people don't go beyond day one, month one, year one.
Right. I know. What's really heartbreaking is when you have educated derelicts, I call
But
them.
in the course of time,
That-
there were 13 sects, 13 religions that tried to push their own Messiah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Romans won the contest.
yeah. Well, the Romans won because they basically had the Council of Nicaea, and they said this is what the doctrine's going to be, and there's a bunch of people that objected, and then the Roman soldiers came in and killed everybody that objected.
Well, they knew Caesar was dying, but
Yeah.
the legacy needed to continue, right? The ownership needed to continue somehow. What was the way to bring everyone back together underneath the arms of flapping eagle? Eagle again.
I guess. I guess. Anyways, so we're talking today about land. Let me see. YouTube went and took my channel down yesterday. Well,
Really?
Which one?
They went and locked me out of it. This is my
Sovereign
channel.
Living?
Yeah. They didn't take it down, but they went and locked me out of it.
Because I can access it.
I know anybody can access it, but I can't access it with my password. Get into it, and like I uploaded a live stream yesterday, and they locked me out of it. And they want me to re-log into it, and it just keeps going in circles. So they're basically playing games. I might have to sue them. At any rate,
No wonder Bill Deagle, I mean, he was in a position on the West Coast, he was natural. And he said something, he made a comment, he said, he's calling him F-U, too. F-U, too. Because he's had some, there's a lot of, censoring going on.
see,
With,
we need you to keep your account secure. Verify it's you.
yeah,
And then no matter what I do, they just say, well, we can't verify it's you.
yeah.
And it just keeps going around in circles.
There's something coming, we know that, right? So we can see
Yeah.
it.
Anyways, so that's what happened yesterday. I think it might have been my live stream. They didn't like my live stream that I uploaded.
Now, do you have an alternative site that you can put that on that they're not going to give you that problem?
Oh yeah, I've got. Matter of fact, I have several. I use Library actually. Is the
Oh, you
one
do?
that I upload to.
Okay.
And but there's other ones, Brighteon. There's not a lot of activity on Brighteon though.
Okay.
But I use library, and in fact,
Library, was it library.com? I don't remember that one.
it's
Rumble's another one that's getting a lot of
Which one?
rumble.com.
That's a good site to put it on, or no?
It's a new one.
Okay.
But it's like a freedom of speech
Right.
zone.
Oh, I see.
Same as Parler is the equivalent to Twitter, or
Okay.
replacement of Twitter.
Hmm.
And some say Facebook too, with some of the stuff you can do on it.
I also use this is Telegram.
Oh, Telegram. Yeah, I've heard that one. Okay.
Where is my library?
Telegram, just the app,
Yeah, basically.
the chat app.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm on several groups. I'm also on.
Look at that screen up there. That's a pretty good size.
These are all the files from yesterday that I recorded. So it's a good thing I was recording stuff yesterday.
Okay. Now, will we be able to view that, or?
Yeah. Once there we go. There's the library.
Okay.
Once what I'll do is I'll go through them and make them into video files, and upload them to some of them will be on my exclusive channel.
Mm-hmm.
These ones now
Right.
are basically going to be public, and so I'll probably, once I get back into my YouTube channel, I'll upload them there. But
Okay.
in the meanwhile, I'll probably upload them on library, and this is my library channel.
X22 report, you listen to him twice a day?
Oh yes, yes.
Who's
yeah,
that?
He's yeah,
X?
for sure. Both of them. Both of them.
Who, X23 then?
Yeah.
X22
Oh,
report.
okay.
Yeah, Dave on X20.
My brother's even listened to him, believe it or not.
Anyways, this is
His-
library.
His YouTube channel though was taken down.
SGT report?
SGT report. I listen to him too. Yeah. He doesn't come out every day though.
Chris from Canada?
Chris from Canada? I'm not sure who that is. Anyways, so we'll go through this one. This is land titles.
Hmm.
We're all products of the government's educational system. The government's taught us what we need to know to operate in their system, but have they taught us everything?
You know, speaking of that, I have to just inject, especially here in New Jersey, I understand the property taxes, more than half of the property taxes, correct me if I'm wrong, goes toward schools, but government schools. Not parochial, not private, not, Christian schools. It all goes to, right? I mean, it's like 50% or better of the taxes here, which I know are high.
60%.
It's 60%. So that alone says, doesn't that tell you something? Doesn't that tell you that something's wrong? In other words, those taxes basically, because shouldn't it go to all schools, technically?
There's
60%
actually
school, 30% township.
I mean, 60%, that's the highest I've ever heard. I thought 50 was high.
well,
And then
3%
60.
for fire department.
So bottom line is, right, I mean, you don't mind paying the fire department and donating to the fire and the police, that type of thing. But when you have school taxes that high, there's something wrong. And according to, who was it, Thomas Jefferson, didn't he say that that's immoral, basically? For you to base, in other words, we're basically, if you're giving something against what someone, if they're training and teaching people against something that's against your will and your
That's right.
and your conscience and what you
That's
know is
right.
right,
yeah.
that's wrong. So that's where those monies are going. They're taking the property tax money, charging property taxes to go toward these educational.
Right.
They're saying that's where it's going, but it goes into a general fund.
Right.
Most of that will go towards paying the pensions and the
Right.
Well, yeah, that's something's wrong with
That's
that.
true.
backhand
Yeah,
stuff.
well,
that
see,
goes
that's
on in the
that's
fields.
what's saying.
It
That,
goes into the consolidated
Yeah,
revenue.
but
So-
my son never spent a day in public.
that's a reason not. That's another reason to get off the tax rolls, right? And make a donation to those entities that use, like the fire
There's
department.
in Arizona, they can. My daughter she can assign, like she sends her kids to private Christian schools.
Right.
And so she assigns the property taxes to go to those schools.
Oh, really?
And so that's how it works in Arizona.
Oh, okay, I never heard of that. I didn't know you could do that. Okay, that's interesting. Well,
But
at
but
least-
I don't know how they do it here in New Jersey. It's certainly, they shouldn't force you to, into the government schools, especially when they have such a
Well, you're
bad
not
reputation.
forced.
Huh?
You're not forced to go into public school.
Well, you're not forced to, but you're forced to pay for it.
Those people though that what they're paying in the taxes, they can't afford to send them. They said, well, with the taxes here and everything else, I just make enough to basically live. So
Well, and what about those people that want to homeschool? Then they shouldn't have to pay for the government schools.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
should be able to keep it and use it to pay for their homeschool.
Exactly, because they're taking their time to teach them,
Right.
and so that money should go to them, right?
Right.
Some should go to them. Exactly.
Absolutely.
If it's going to the teachers and they got a pension, well, why shouldn't that the public homeschool?
Your average tax is 10,000 a year. 60%, that's 6,000.
Of course.
Saint Dominic cost me 5,500 a year.
Yeah.
As a Catholic private school,
Okay, well there you go.
plus the taxes.
Well, you've got to pay that on top of the taxes. Is what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So it's wrong. I mean, there's so many, and how people can't see these things, and why there isn't a revolt regarding that.
Well, I
beyond
think
me.
that's what's happening right now. Is we're going through all of that stuff right now because there's people revolting about all sorts of stuff. You know?
Right, right.
And but that's just one of the issues, and obviously New Jersey does it one way, but Arizona does it another way. So not every state has got that issue.
Right.
So the people here need to stand up and say, screw this. And there's because of
People
this.
who?
I think people will pay. Most people would pay if it was a minimal, reasonable amount of tax. Because I found out I was living in Queens at one time, 10 years ago,
Yes, it
and I
is.
heard out what the taxes are today. They more than doubled, like 2.5 times, and the roads are worse than they've ever been. When I was a little kid, I remember in Queens there were some areas that were just horrendous, right? Like Maspeth, Woodside, and so on. And then they did a beautiful job. Everything was like the nicest areas in Nassau County or whatever. And now they're back to where they were. So where's all that going? It's who's running the damn city, right? That's why there's a big problem.
Right.
This guy, it's the management. It's whoever runs the cities.
Of course it is.
Right.
And they're basically thieves.
Right.
One guy is a good guy. Probably when the roads were good, as Giuliani was mayor.
Right. That's right.
And when they're bad, you got people like De Blasio.
That's correct. That's correct.
And
Exactly.
and so he's taking the money for himself. It's
That's
all
right.
this corruption.
Right.
Anyways.
But if you're in a bankruptcy, they still paying, the money still going to things, or is the state's not in the same bankruptcy that the U.S. corporation is in, or something like that? I just thought none of the money was going. Just don't
Well,
mind me.
technically, they're the cities go into bankruptcy, but they go into different. It's all treated differently than the federal government.
Oh, okay.
And so the fact that we're using Federal Reserve notes is evidence that the federal government's bankrupt. But it only took 9 months short of 20 years after the Federal Reserve Act was passed in the middle of the night for the federal government to be put into bankruptcy, which is kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
the cities, whether the cities go or anybody else goes, I mean that's just a separate corporation. That's the way they
Yeah.
treat it.
And the guy who signed that into law, Woodrow Wilson, on his deathbed said the worst thing he ever did was to sign that. On his deathbed, he said that. He
Yeah,
said that,
so
basically.
he's an idiot.
Right. And here's a guy who, in fact, he was, I think, had at Princeton. He was a smart guy. He was no dummy. But, he was, I think it was Mendel House, what do they call him, Colonel House? I got to laugh. He wasn't an army. Colonel House. He was sort of like
He was a communist.
he was like he was a predecessor to, what's it called, Hans Kissinger. They call him Henry, but his name's Hans.
Yeah,
Who's now, he can't go into how many countries
right.
his
Right.
right. But it's amazing, he's still alive.
Right.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Because he's into alternative remedies and stuff like that.
Well, like
Doesn't
Hitler. Hitler
trust-
lived to be like 107,
Soros?
at least. Huh?
Soros?
No, Henry
Kissinger.
Kissinger. Hans Kissinger.
Soros. Hungary is
Yeah.
just waiting for him
Oh, yeah. I
with
know.
the machete.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. I know.
Yeah, come on back. We'll
But that's,
fix you up.
he has that penalty in his own country
Look,
of origin.
how is it possible he's still alive? And he goes all the way back to World War II, or before the war, and he was selling his own people out, and he's proud of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hello.
1978, he
Yeah.
is on a camera speaking with his own voice
Yeah.
that his life job is to bring America down to its knees.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't Trump sign executive order allowing those who commit treason against this soil, all their assets should be seized and
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't treason.
Why is
it
this
was
man-
those involved in human trafficking?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, human trafficking.
That was the.
Which
so
by-
they got to build a case
But
against
no,
him.
Yeah.
treason can be traced back to him for establishing
Biden's involved,
BLM and
I
all
think, isn't
those
he? Yeah.
terroristic
And Eastern Europe.
groups.
Well, it'd be
But he's the
sedition.
main sponsor.
Yeah, well, it's sponsoring.
He's
it,
the
so
organizer
It
and
wouldn't be
main
treason
sponsor.
per se, I don't think, because it's not a direct action, but it would be classed as sedition.
So,
and
I would like to
conspiracy.
see Giuliani as Attorney General, quite frankly. That would be
Yeah.
good.
yeah, I thought he might have been someone stage.
I think with after
I just
Trump
want
gets-
someone to hang. I want to see someone
Well, yeah.
hang.
I agree.
There should have been a lot of them
I
hanging
agree.
already.
Yeah.
HRC. I mean, if you had the
Give
guilt,
me
give
me
me
one.
Joe.
the other crimes.
Stretch their
This
neck.
woman is the most
I
evil
want to see
woman.
them get their neck stretched.
She's the most evil woman that's ever lived. She
Yeah.
makes Jezebel look like an angel almost,
Yeah, no
if that's
joke.
possible, which is not. But
Okay, so let's keep moving here.
All
We
right.
still got a lot of material to cover. This is 116 slides, and we're on number
Ooh.
4.
Okay.
So, did you pay for your land with Federal Reserve notes or their equivalent? Can the bail priests and the so-called courts presume that you use Federal Reserve notes or their equivalent? And that's really what it comes down to, is you have to defeat their presumptions. Was the payment shown in the deed, was it an S with 1 vertical bar, or was it an S with 2 vertical bars?
Should be two, right?
There's 2
Sure,
is a
sure.
dollar.
Right?
Two
Should be
dollars.
should be two,
Should
right?
be 2, yeah.
Is this where I pay off the bank and get the deed and sell it to my son for whatever pieces of silver? And from this point, I'm not the owner. I'm not the. Now it's my son's, right?
Right.
Now, is he the one who goes and tries to work it out to get it removed from a tax group?
Well, it's really, yeah, the owner has to do it, right? So if your son's not motivated, then it's not going to happen, right? True. And
So before we get to that point, I paid off the mortgage. Is this the moment where I can go?
that's what I would do. I would certainly, there's a lot of ways like you can deal with taxes. For example, the Form 1020. And I use the Form 1020. I've got some property that they're wanting taxes on. Some of it's owned by LLCs. I've got some property in Texas that is owned by an LLC, and I actually transferred it to me, but I didn't send them the filing fee, and so they're pestering it's owned by a trust is actually what it's owned by. So they're sending stuff to the trust saying that but I sent them the deed and they sent it back because I didn't pay the filing fee. And so anyway, so I sent them letters, I filed criminal complaints against them, all sorts of stuff, saying you mess with that land and I'll sue your butt off because I'm the one that owns it. And they still keep sending the tax notices, but it's been going on for 5 years. And if they're going to foreclose, they got to do it within a couple of years, eh? So I, it's just a exercise in futility, really. But so, anyways, the bottom line is that. So then, what I did is I sent them the Form 1020, and everything changed.
What is Form 1020? Do we have an example?
The Form 1020, I've got a YouTube video about it. I can print some off when I get back to my printer. I'll print some off for you. The Form 1020 basically says it's a 2-page form. It's real simple. It says, tell me what to pay. And it says, do you want Federal Reserve notes? Do you want evidence of the debt of the United States? Do you want, and it lists a bunch of, do you want bonds? Do you want, or other? Tell me what, other, and then please explain. and it says that the lawyers have to sign it, okay, with their bar card number, and then I'll know what to pay. They will never sign it, and the reason is because they'll be perjuring their oath if they do, because the Constitution. The reason is, and we talked about this yesterday, the Constitution requires gold or silver coin.
Oh.
And if they can't ask for gold or silver coin because there's no gold or silver coin in general circulation.
Right.
And so they can't ask for it, and they want Federal Reserve notes. But if they ask for Federal Reserve notes, that's perjury of oath. And so it puts them in, they'll never sign it. And so you send them the Form 1020, and then you give it 30 days, and you send them the notice of default and opportunity to cure, which basically says, I asked for this, and you haven't sent me anything. And then the final notice of default after another 30 days, and it basically says you're in default, and I don't owe you anything. And
the only issue with that I can see with taxes, property taxes, is of course they do everything in the background. They have tax sales, so you could find out that you get a notification of sale of your property.
well, no, they have to escalate it. It takes them years to get it to the point where they're actually doing the tax sales, and they're telling you about it all along the process. So all you do is, and sometimes it depends. Okay, you have to enforce these. Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't. I've sent one, and in the advanced weekend next weekend, we're going to talk about what the Form 1020 and one that I sent to the IRS, because the IRS immediately backed off. Okay, and so sometimes you have to enforce them, and sometimes they just run away and hide. Okay, if you have to enforce them, they all have lawyers. Okay, I guarantee you, with the county tax assessor, the county attorney is the one that's responsible. And so you file a bar complaint against the county attorney and say that he's perjured his oath of office because they're still harassing you for this tax and they don't owe you anything. And under the Uniform Commercial Code, you're offering to pay. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, if you make an offer to pay and they don't accept it, then it's discharged. And so I guarantee you, you start filing bar complaints against a lawyer, it'll go away right now.
Wow.
Okay? Guaranteed. Huh?
No, that's amazing. That's really, so, okay, I just want to, I said that sign with the S with 2 bars, is that equivalent to where there's 1 bar?
That's
then,
the real dollar sign, is the S with two bars.
What's the other one?
The one bar is actually a peso sign. That's the Federal Reserve notes. That's the fake money.
Ah.
They want you to think like it's real money, but it's not.
And what's the S with the line up and down? Not
2
through?
bars?
No, well, up and down, but not through, like the first.
Well, that's the 1 bar. That's the 1 bar.
That's the same. Okay, that's the same as the one on. In other words, those are equivalent. The one on.
No, they're not equivalent.
One
This
is a
one.
peso, one is a dollar.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
That's okay.
right.
The one with it goes straight through. That's a peso, and the one with is
Whether
the
it
Federal
goes
Reserve.
straight through or not is immaterial.
Okay, but that's the Federal Reserve note.
The one with 2 vertical bars is this. It's real money.
Right, I see. Okay.
Okay?
That's a
The
silver
one
dollar.
with 1 vertical bar, whether it's halfway through or all the way through, is this.
Is
It's
that one?
fake money.
Ah, okay, right.
Now,
And
the dollar, there's still no designation of what the dollar
That's
is.
right. There's a lot of countries that use that same sign. Mexico uses it. And so you could give them Mexican pesos, and he said that he knows people that have actually done that, and how can they argue? You say they want dollars, they don't tell you what kind of dollars, then you give them
Okay,
I think it was
Rhodesian
Zimbabwe.
dollars or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something like that.
right.
Excuse me, in the best case scenario, the end result of all of this, do you think it would look like there'd literally be 2 sets of Americans? One that knows this stuff,
Yeah.
and the ones that will continue to the very last day possible.
That's what we are.
Still in
Yeah.
the system, really?
Yeah, there's two,
Right.
there's
Oh,
two
yeah,
systems.
okay.
There's 2 systems, exactly.
Oh,
You want to stay? You want to stay in that? That's sure. Well, that's
They
fine.
know this.
It's like people.
Yes.
Everyone's saying you're going to vote. You're going to vote on Tuesday. Did you vote yet? Did you? Well, I'm sorry, that's not my, there's no election for our system.
Yes, thank
Right now-
you.
You know, that's what, you know,
And they-
that's what the corp,
The
One
worst
of the
part,
first
I-
videos.
I can almost
And
swear
they-
that foreigners know more about
They
what's
do.
happening here.
That's true.
Than people
Really,
born
really,
and raised
really.
on
all you
this
gotta
soil.
do, wait, all you gotta do
I
is,
Yeah,
can
that's not
talk to
true.
my neighbor all day long. She
That's
has
true.
no clue what I'm talking about.
that's because Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda for Nazi Germany, his dream became a
That's
reality
true.
here.
That's true.
Here. That's what all the
Well,
major
it was
networks
Nazis,
are about.
They went and imported the Nazis after the Second World War.
Well, yeah, that's Operation Paperclip.
That's
right.
the thing is, this is one of the, in my video that I'm going to be showing next week about the communist takeover,
Right.
there's 4 kinds of people you'll meet in your life. I put this in the very beginning of my videos now.
Yeah.
And there's 4 kinds of people. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves.
And what better slave is there than one who thinks he's free?
That's right. That's the perfect slave. Which one are you?
I was on the phone with my brothers, and you know, one of my second oldest brother, he kind of knows what time it is. My youngest brother, he's kind of like, he doesn't know anything about the Bible, he doesn't know anything about this stuff, but he's a really good guy. You know? So anyway, I thought I told him, but like what you said, I was like, what are y'all voting for? And you know, they both seemed to hear me. Next thing I knew, they were on the phone with me. Oh, I gotta get to my poll. Oh my God. I just felt like, oh my God, I'm the only one, even in my own, you know, amongst my brothers, they just, I couldn't convince them anything. They just were running to the polls. You know, oh, it's so long, the lines are so long.
Look, if I had to vote for someone and it's bottom of my mind, I said, oh, I'll vote for Trump, no question about it. I mean, how can you even?
Absolutely, yeah.
How can you have such a? I've never seen in my life the disparity. Or here you got a guy who's in many ways a high-level criminal. 50 years in the system, didn't do a damn thing, and yet, oh, the polls show he's 10 points. Give me a break.
Yeah,
What kind of?
yeah,
how
that's
how
a
can
bunch
people
of crap.
actually buy this crap? I mean, you know,
But
they do.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I saw a poll. Yeah, poll done by whom? Where?
Yeah, really.
Besides CNN,
Really, really.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at the. And by the way, do you think it's a coincidence they pay these people like Como or whoever else 10, 20, 10, whatever millions of dollars a year? How can they pay them that? They're good at convincing other people, or they can, and reading it. Not for, you can pay someone $50,000. I mean, $500,000. They'd be excited if they got $500,000 to go in there and dress up nice and smile. And but that's what it is. I mean, they're paid for their. Walter Cronkite thought he was, you know. I mean, that's someone going back a while, but bottom line, is that not why they pay these people that kind of money and to keep their mouth shut? To just follow along?
Majority don't understand why soldiers love Trump, but generals hate him.
Well, because there's good generals and there's bad generals. Because there's generals that are involved in a lot of evil stuff.
There's, you know Jerome Corsi? You ever heard of Jerome Corsi?
Not familiar.
Actually, let me see here. I got a YouTube video where I was.
I'm not saying all generals hate him.
No, but there's a lot, I know.
But there's a lot of them who count on those.
That's right. Exactly.
I
Look,
mean, my sister used to work for a guy who worked for Lucky Martin.
no.
Never specify what he was doing, but that he was involved in some laboratory work.
Yeah. You mean like Plum Island?
A guy about my age
Yeah.
was coming home with paychecks, $30, $80 million.
Yeah. Well,
What do you do?
well, you have traders.
Fool us.
You
How
have-
fool us, that's
how
how much
many
work.
lives have you just saved?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is the problem. We have, look, there's some people who are not going to compromise their principles no matter what. And then there's other people who, well, when they give that kind of money, and of course they're told to shut up and just you follow our system, and that's.
Where's the money in that amount?
I don't know. Where does it go? Where does it go? Right, exactly.
The ones who own
I
the-
heard that the Wizard of the one you mentioned earlier, whatchamacallit, who bought all that land, that he's actually, once he passes on, he's got to turn that back, exactly. Because he's really not a genius. He's just that he's
Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett, yeah, Warren Buffett. So you know,
Who knows?
and Bill Gates. I mean, come on.
Well, we gotta pay
Here's a guy.
attention
What's he doing? A guy who's
because for a man who spent entire life
Right.
preaching against gold and silver,
yeah.
he's dumping all his bank stocks.
He's buying gold and silver big
He's-
time right now.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
not buying gold.
Just
He's
silver.
buying quarries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, right.
Quarries?
Yeah,
Forget-
mines.
Forget coins.
Mines.
Yeah, he buys
He's buying the mines.
Yeah, that's right.
The mines, exactly.
Quarries.
That's what I wanted to do like 10, 15 years ago. I had an opportunity, but I needed a partner to do so. I had some really good opportunities.
Yeah, I don't. My attitude, if I could buy the whole mine, then it'd be one thing. But
Yeah.
I'm not interested in stocks because stocks are so manipulated.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with
No.
it. This guy here is Jerome Corsi, right here.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's a PhD. He knows Roger Stone, okay, and I guess indirectly knows Trump. I don't know if he knows Trump. There's nothing I can find that shows that he knows Trump, but
Yeah.
there's a YouTube video with him where he talks about in 2015, 5 generals came to see him,
Right.
and
I
they
know
said
that
they were
story.
going to overthrow Obama.
Yeah, I know the story.
And so there's some good generals,
Yes.
but Obama was trying to get rid of the good ones, and he was firing the good
I
generals.
know that story, and they fulfilled on it once Trump said, committed that he is going to run.
Right,
Right.
right.
Actually, Barry Santoris, right? And most people don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
And
Right.
most people,
Barry Sotoro,
and
that's
most
right.
people don't know that Michael is really Michelle.
Yeah.
Remember? What?
Oh, no.
I don't know about that because
He made a
she
mistake.
doesn't have an Adam's apple. So
Well, I saw a picture.
Yeah.
But
An
she
earlier
has
picture
something
with
else
Barry
when
and
he's
Michael.
dancing on Ellen.
yeah, I've
and,
seen
Right.
that, but again,
and
I
a
don't know
winky
whether
is
And-
flying.
and he
no
a couple
overlaid picture
Yeah, you
on
never
somebody
know.
else's
You never know.
body.
And he
Yeah.
slipped a couple of times and
That's
said,
true.
Michael and I. Michael,
That's
right.
you don't do that. Okay, it's bad enough you mention some other woman's name, but to say Michael and I, not Michelle and I, Michael and I.
But it's
something. Did you see? Okay, it's like there's 2 tennis stars. Okay, that when they were young, okay, Venus and they were born male. Okay, that their father had an opportunity because he was a good teacher and so on. And all you have to do is look. All you got to do is look at the physique. There's no Amazon woman that even looks like that. Okay, or could take a tennis racket and smash it like that and break it in 2. It's not a. I mean, I wonder why the
Venus
women of the
Williams.
world do not rise up and say something about these things.
Yeah.
I mean, either that or they're squashed from saying, because that's what we have here. We have, it's what, I hate to say it, but, so,
I don't know.
Anyways, let's keep moving here. We've got
All right.
a lot of material to cover,
all right.
and
So Jerome is,
well, anyways, that's Jerome Corsi. But
I like that guy up
there's
there,
4
number 1.
kinds of people.
Number 1 up there. He's the one that asked the question about the red room.
Marcus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's good.
Morpheus. That's
More
right.
reason.
So the question is whether did you pay for your land with Federal Reserve notes or their equivalent? Can the bill priests and the so-called courts presume that you use Federal Reserve notes or their equivalent?
Yeah.
Was the payment shown on the deed as an S with 1 vertical bar, which, if you look on this affidavit of property value, that they were so nice to provide.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
That's Arizona?
yeah.
I like that state. The more I think about Arizona.
Well, again, it shows
They use some kind of a dollar sign.
they use a 1 vertical bar, right here. See here? Right
Yeah.
there. And so, again, right here, there's several places. It's all over on here. It's 1 vertical bar. And so they're trying to get you to say under penalty of perjury
Is that,
I
is
use
that why
pesos.
the number goes into a square box?
That's right, a square box. That's right. There's nothing there.
And you just can't change this because this is their document, right? In other words, you can't
Yeah.
cross that out and put.
Well, I don't think it'd do any good. They again, the clerks are clerks. They're idiots.
Right.
They hire
Isn't
people
this
like that.
being considered
Yeah.
as offer to contract?
Sorry.
Isn't this being considered as offer to contract?
Sure.
Yeah.
And what I do,
Because if that's so, you can make your own notes. You can.
Right.
you could, but I just don't send it back because what happens
Right.
But
is it
that's-
says
that's not a response. In other words, you confirm me.
Yeah, acquiesce.
well, it says right here in this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says to receive the fastest service possible without further delay, the slip must accompany your document before you return it for recording. Failing to do so result in extra time spent matching and return to the information already in the hold file.
So, is it recorded or is it not recorded?
No, actually, the courts have ruled, and we're going to go through that. The courts have ruled that when they get it, It's recorded.
It's not
Regardless-
registered. It's not registered, though.
Whatever.
Right.
It's recorded,
Yes.
whether it's file stamped or not.
Right,
It's filed.
Right.
And that's what the courts have said. So I don't care what they do with it. It's filed. That's why they put it in a file.
So all you have to do is show this in this envelope if you had to go for a judge then.
Well, no. Yeah, if I had to go, but what's going to happen, think about it, is, first of all, they're going to be looking for property taxes, right? Well,
Yeah.
it's in the hold file. They know that the previous owner is not the owner. They know that I'm the owner.
Right.
And yet, they don't have the affidavit of property value. It's in the hold file. That's the non-taxpaying file, because I've never heard anything from them.
So if you were to sell this to someone else in the future, and they didn't agree or whatever, they decide they always thought it paid.
They'll probably send them an offer, say, well, you always owe all these back taxes.
How long do you have this property?
Sorry?
How long do you have this property?
This? I've had this since
You don't have to be exact.
2009.
You don't have to be exact.
Is this
It's
just
11
land?
years.
Is there
Yeah.
is there any house or building on there?
No.
Okay, so it's
No, it's just land.
okay.
Have you once per any year paid for property tax?
No,
Did you receive
absolutely
bill
No,
for property
No.
tax?
Oh, so you didn't even get a bill?
no.
So, and you didn't get, and they try to
No.
foreclose on it or anything?
No.
But, okay. So, because it's at whole.
That's
Which
right.
is what you wanted.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Is that just Arizona, or do they do that? Because
I think it's everywhere, but again, I think, again, in some states they have an affidavit or a land transfer tax. I think you
Yes.
could do it the same way in New York, send it to them by registered mail. You see what I'm saying? You got to say on the deed that you paid gold or silver coin, lawful money, etc.
Okay.
And then, if they do come back and want some, well, first of all, they'll probably
so,
send you.
Hold on. So deed, okay, on a deed that I pay with silver or gold, the deed that's supposedly coming back to me from when I pay off the mortgage will definitely not say that I pay gold or silver.
You're going to have to transfer it again.
Okay. I was.
Because the mortgage company doesn't take gold or silver; they only take Federal Reserve notes.
Right.
So you're going to have to transfer it again and show that gold or silver was paid for it.
Okay, so I have a situation. This is classic, not classic. I told you 3 years ago I had a building that I got acquired. It's not an expensive building; it was cheap. But the bottom line is, I paid for that with a check, which obviously would be Federal Reserve. But the deed was missing, and I never recorded that because someone by the name of Griswold, Howard Griswold, I talked to him, and he's not. He said, "Don't do anything. Don't say anything. We're going to change that." It was never done. Okay, I don't know, whatever reason he wanted to come down there, and then he wasn't available. Bottom line, then I couldn't find the deed. I contacted the attorney. He was actually pretty good for the seller, and he got me. He did a whole new thing over. Okay, now I was sent through. They were sending the bills to the address that I had for the LLC. And then they included my name on there. Now, I didn't give them my name. They must have got that either from the attorney or they looked up the LLC and saw that I was going to set it up. Bottom line is this. I sent them a conditional acceptance upon proof of claim and finished that back in December. I haven't heard anything. Now, my question is, I should basically transfer doing what you said because I have the LLC, so I have to get someone else to step in that would sign that and sell it to me as the real man on the land, right? So now the thing is this: do I have to buy that? Could they question it if I were to buy that for one piece of silver or $1 silver dollar?
I would make the deed say something equivalent to what the value is.
Okay.
In other words, if
All
it's worth $100,000, I would put on the deed that I get 100. If gold is worth $2,000 an ounce, right? Then
50
I would say that you got
coins,
50
gold coins.
gold coins,
Okay.
gold eagles,
Right.
one with 1 troy ounce each, with a face value of $50 each, which is what, $2,500.
Should I be going back to before 33 as far as gold and silver coins? In other words, should I say, or that's not important. In other words, a silver coin before the 1933.
No. I don't.
Silver coins.
Doesn't matter.
What I say
Okay.
is I got 50. If you want to use silver, then you say that I like to use Silver Eagles.
Yeah, that's what
Because, which is these things, because these things are lawful money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either going to be these
right.
or the gold ones.
Okay.
And it says right on there $1.
Right.
So I'll describe it. I'll say Silver Eagle coins with a face value of $1 each, for a total of, if there's 50 of them, $50 of
Okay.
lawful money,
Right.
pursuant to the Coinage Act of 1792.
Okay. So
You see what I'm saying?
I'm doing that, and then that should be recorded with the actual.
That's got to be on the face of the deed. So
On the face
that's
of
your
the deed.
payment in full, as
Okay.
payment in full.
Right.
So you got however many gold or silver eagles
Right.
as payment in full,
Okay.
and put that on the deed as to what you paid.
But I should. That should be recorded with the county in the where that land is. That building is.
Yeah.
In land is. It's in Oneida County, so that's where it should go. And if they don't record it, because they asked me last time, they said no, you have to give us a. Now I didn't send it in the mail. I spoke to him. He said no, you have to have. You have to have the two other forms as New York State. One basically is that they collect a fee for the transfer tax, and then they also put you basically on the record. That's how they get you on the recording.
Whatever.
So, but if I don't send
you
that,
send it to them
registered,
without all of that stuff by
Yeah.
registered mail.
okay,
It's filed.
that's what I'm saying. So I send them the original
We'll
document.
go through that in this
Okay.
presentation. It's filed, regardless of whether they stamp it or not.
Okay, so now my question is this: during that interim, the 3-year period, 4-year, whatever it is, where no property taxes were collected, do they have any recourse at that point? I mean, since I have that done properly, but nothing was paid in between there. Or
Why would they have recourse?
Well, my question is,
If you,
It's
I
not
don't
registered.
know. I mean,
Right,
I
so
but
again,
you're not registering. You're not registering for the tax. So
No, no,
they
what
have
I'm-
no recourse.
No,
if
what I'm
you
saying is-
own the land, what's their remedy?
my question is that in the last 3 years, it was sold to the LLC.
What's their remedy?
Their
Think
remedy?
of it this way. What's their remedy? If they think you owe them something, what's their remedy?
They have to send a bill.
Their remedy is to try and steal your land.
Right, okay.
If you have the land patent on it, they can't.
Okay,
You're taking away their remedy.
okay.
That's why, if it's done properly, they don't even try.
So it doesn't matter anywhere in the country, including New York, like you said, we talked about.
It's,
If
you
you
know,
can-
I've never done it in New York. I can tell you I've done it in Arizona and I've done it in Texas.
Okay,
Texas has a little bit different procedure, but again, it's worked.
because other people have said,
And then on top of that, I think the Form 1020 will work anywhere.
but I also heard that if you rewrite that deed properly and you don't use like an address type of thing, change
I never use their address.
That's correct.
And when I put on my deed, I never. I mean, you see what I have on my deed.
You have to redo the meets and bounds or have a
Well, a meets and bounds legal description is a good idea, but it's
Okay.
not mandatory.
okay.
I mean, there can be defects. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
Ideally, you're right. You should get a surveyor to go out there and make a meets and bounds legal description.
Right.
But sometimes it's not realistic, or say you're you need to do it right away and you can't wait, or who knows what. Sometimes you can't do it. So it's
Right.
not. It's not, in my opinion, it's not fatal. It's certainly better if you do the meets and bounds legal description. Then I put both of the legal descriptions on there. I put the first one as the meets and bounds,
Right.
and then I put also known as Lot 21 of this subdivision or something like that.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
You could say it's X feet from this corner or whatever, because I have another house basically I acquired a year and a half ago.
Whatever. But again, that goes back to meets and bounds.
Right.
Meets and bounds is going to go from the nearest survey marker.
Okay.
Now, in the Northeast, I mean, they do it from the old oak tree or something like that.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, I mean, but that's a meets and bounds legal description too. I mean, that's the old meets and bounds, you know, way back when, because it's from the old oak tree, you know, 150 yards, you know, or whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but you still have to get the original. Somehow you have to get a patent that goes back as far as possible. If you can get that,
based on what you're saying, it sounded like you had the patent.
But it was a huge area, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
who
Okay.
cares? It's gonna be.
If that was the
They're
one
not-
given by the king and to Rensselaer,
You
right,
see the patent there?
Right.
That's on 10 square miles.
okay.
Who prepared this? Who wrote this?
Me.
Okay, that's the key then. It's obviously, there's no recourse, so there's nothing they could do. And then you could actually go after them in the meantime, go after the assessor or whatever, send them some, for what they're trying to do to you, no?
Well, yeah, I'd accept their oath of office, start building a case against them, start filing criminal complaints against them and stuff like that. But again, you have to, they have the right to presume certain things until you take away that right.
Yeah, they told me I'm the only one in the whole county that actually sent anything in about, when it started. You're the only one who sent anything in. Well,
So that just means that everybody else is asleep at the wheel.
right. But my other question is, should in the meantime, while I'm doing that, should I file a mechanics lien on the property for monies that I put out for that building, and also for work I did on there myself?
Do you own the land?
Well, when you say own the land,
Well, it's the LLC. It's under the name of an
yes,
LLC.
exactly.
What
If you wanted to, you could file a mechanics lien as
Okay.
a man.
Right, that's what I mean. Against them.
But again, if you're just going to transfer it from the LLC to you, it's like, the courts have ruled that because of sovereign immunity, for example, the governments are sovereign because the people, the government is the people, and the people can't sue themselves. It's impossible to sue themselves, so you
Right.
can't sue the government. You see
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the government's the people.
Good people, right.
You
okay.
can't sue yourself, so
Right.
you can't sue the government.
Right, okay.
Which land? Where is the land described here?
Beechwood Estates, Section E, Lot 3. I think it may not be this one,
But if it would be that.
but there'd be a plat map, sure. Beechwood Estates, Section E, Lot 3. Oh, this is in, you're right, yeah, that's this one. That's this one. This is the land patent for that. This is in Texas.
Land patent.
Yeah, this is the land patent that was issued for that particular piece of property. This will be,
Is this how long this had been in someone's or some family's hands?
not necessarily, it wouldn't be how long, it was when the land is originally sold by the government. Here is,
That's what takes you back to 1845.
oh, well this one's, 1845,
So leave it for
but
the-
there's other ones here, like for example, this was a Texas one. This is in Hudspeth County.
That looked more like.
This is in Texas, and it was sold in 1946. So that's less than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But this is the land patent for that, and this is the minerals are reserved, but that's it. The minerals, they reserve the mineral rights in this one.
So if you discover something on it,
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have the mineral rights,
You don't own it.
but everything else you won't.
Yeah, but some people are smart. They don't sell the mineral rights. They have a feeling,
so in other words, God forbid they discover something, because then they're gonna rip everything apart. They
So
get
if
a
you-
house on it, they're gonna tear
Well,
that down.
I think this
trying
is a
to-
section.
If you don't have the rights, that means you can't. If you have, like, if you're in a desert, and you want to drill a well, you're not able to really do that, right? If you don't have the rights to.
Well, you could drill a well.
Isn't
that's
water
water.
a mineral?
In some states,
Okay.
like in
It's not
for
mineral
example,
water, not mineral water.
in Arizona, they have water rights. In
Okay, so-
desert areas, they have water
Oh,
rights.
okay, that's true. Yeah.
This is actually in a desert area, but it doesn't say anything about water rights.
All right.
But in Arizona, I've got land patents for Arizona,
So as
and
a,
it does talk about water rights.
So it's the best
As
water.
a prepper, and you're buying some property, are you considering that there might be no water in a desert?
Yeah, but that's why you have the water rights then.
Yeah,
Let me
that's-
take-
But if there's nothing said about the water rights, then you can drill a well. Even when it does say about the water rights, you can drill a well for your house, okay? But you can't take the water water. They limit your water.
In other words-
It's enough for you personally to use, you and your family. But you couldn't start irrigating a whole
I was
bunch
gonna
of
say,
land.
if you wanna make a pond in the backyard, a big
yeah,
pond,
yeah,
they
they
won't let you
wouldn't
do
want you to be doing that.
Because you know the best water in the world, the best water